Welcome everybody to another episode of the Laces Out Show. Joined as always by Devin Latulip and Noah Zandy. Today, second day of the NFL free agency legal tampering period. Off season's underway. We got a lot to talk about. Lots of news coming in all at once lately. Somewhat overwhelming, but also fun. This is one of the better times of year. Obviously, watching the games on Sundays are always fun. It's what we like to do. It's why we're fans. But this offseason stuff is always super intriguing, and it's just, this is a year-long thing with the NFL and with football in general. That's what makes it so great. Today, I think we're just going to start off talking a little bit about the Cincinnati Bengals situation. Not just because we have, Noah's a Bengals fan, not just because of that, but I think there's been a lot of moves that have happened recently that makes it relevant with Cincinnati and what they've got going on. Kind of like extensions with other positions that, could drive the price up with some guys that they've yet to pay. So, yeah, I think we'll just get right into it with Noah. So, obviously, you probably have the most to say about this. Noah's a Bengals fan, for those who don't know. So, what is your take on everything that's going on with Jamar Chase needing a contract, with T. Higgins getting the tag, Trey Hendrickson possibly going to get traded? What do you make of all this?
Well, the problem for me is just the overall laziness of the Bengals front office. This is something that could have been resolved last offseason. I think you could have gotten T. Higgins for about $25 million a year and then Jamar Chase at around 35. And instead, they make the baffling move, in my opinion, to bet against their own players, which makes no sense. Now the price is up. They publicly came out and said they want to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback yearly, which another, I don't know why you would just come out in public and say that. And they really seem to be waiting when they should be aggressive in re-signing these guys because I don't know what they're waiting for. The price is only going to go up. If your plan is to trade Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, go ahead, fine, do it. But they're losing leverage by the day. And I think it's a misconception that some people think this is a cap space issue. It is not a cap space issue at all. They could easily afford to re-sign all three. It's a guaranteed money issue. The Bengals in the past have never given out guaranteed money. They've stuck to that business model for years, and it's the modern NFL. You have to give out guaranteed money. Nobody's taking a hometown discount anymore. It's just a ridiculous way of doing business. And if they lose one of these guys, it's going to be purely all on them, their fault. So that's basically what I had to say on it. It's just a really bad way of doing business. That's the way the Bengals have been doing business for years.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair to say. The Bengals, it's like, it kind of reminds me, I guess when I think of the Bengals, I think of sort of what you said about they just do business, they don't do it right. And I don't want to say refused to change, but they haven't really adapted too well, I guess, to the way that the league works now. And it just kind of reminds me. It reflects how those 2010s Bengals, where Marvin Lewis was the coach, and they just wouldn't win a playoff game. Yet they kept running it back with Marvin Lewis over and over and over and over again. It's just kind of reflecting the same sort of philosophy. And I think it's an example for the rest of the league that it's really smart to get out ahead and get out in front of these extensions and pay your guys early because, like you said, they're refusing to bet on their own guys. And if you think that these players are really that good, then why wouldn't you bet on them? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the price isn't going to go down; it's only going to go up. We've seen two monster pass rusher extensions recently, with Matt Crosby earning $36.5 million annually, and then Myles Garrett's making $40 million annually, that's just kind of bonkers. I can't really wrap my head around that one still. But but now, what's going to stop Trey Hendrickson's agent from coming up to the Bengals front office saying, "Hey, Trey finished second Defensive Player of the Year voting last year and led the league in sacks. Why can't he get $40 million a year?" That's just how it works. And because the Bengals have failed to get ahead of that, it's only going to make it harder to extend them now. And it's the same thing with Jamar Chase, because we saw CeeDee Lamb get a monster extension last offseason. Justin Jefferson is on a monster one too. And so now Jamar Chase is going to want that top market value money when, like you said, you could have signed him for less last offseason, and the Bengals refused to get out ahead of it. And now they're in a tough spot. As far as Higgins goes, he's obviously franchise tagged. I think there's still a lot to work out there. I think most people assume that he does not want to play on the tag. So this could be like a tag and trade situation, or he could play hardball and the Bengals could finally extend him to a big deal. I think the thing with T. Higgins is he's going to want wide receiver one type money. And a good comparison, I think, is the contract DK Metcalf just got, where he's earning $33 million annually from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that could be a similar amount that Higgins would want. But I think this is, to be fair to the Bengals, is it really smart to pay Jamar Chase close to $40 million? Is probably what it's going to have to be now per season, and then turn around and also give T Higgins 30 plus. That's usually just not the smartest way of building a roster. So at this point, man, it's just going to be really interesting to see how they handle it.
And it's interesting because the Bengals, you've never like name the last big Bengals trade. The Bengals don't like to trade their players, so they're
Mm-mm.
kind of stuck in the middle to where they're kicking the can down the road on these franchise tags and stuff, but at the same time they're refusing to pay their players. So like you gotta pick one. You can't just sit back and do nothing unless you want him to walk next offseason and try to force him to play under the tag. Obviously pissed off. So
You got anything, Devin?
Um, just just tomfoolery from the Bengals here. Just absolute tomfoolery. I mean, you're talking about wasting Joe Burrow's. Like, he's going to the prime of his career. Like it's coming up. Like time to make a move. Time to do something. Literally, quite literally anything. And I think like no would be happy if the Bengals did one singular thing.
spend your
And they're
cap
not. They're just
space.
not going to. They've shown it time and time again. They're just content with mediocrity. They don't care about being a serious winning team in the NFL. So, if I was a fan, I'd be very annoyed. Like Noah has expressed, I'd be very frustrated. Do we know the asking price for Trey Hendrickson? Have they like said officially what it is?
Late first round pick, early second is what I've been hearing. The
Okay.
there was like a rumor there was like a third round, but that's not true.
Yeah, I figured that
Absolutely
was.
not. Yeah, no way.
Well, I'm here to tell you that Trey Henderson is a Colt. Um, so,
Sure, give us your first round pick.
no, that's Tyler Warren. That's Tyler Warren. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The
it's
Colts,
pretty much.
Colts have been active though, free
Yeah,
agency.
we
Mhm.
have. No, I was not expecting that. Chris Ballard, the whole thing with Chris Ballard's been his whole time here is that he just doesn't make a splash in free agency. And like, you know, whatever, every GM has their own, thoughts and ways they want to run the team. And, as long as you're in charge, obviously you're fine. If you're winning, it's even better. The Colts have obviously not won as much as they should have. So that kind of thought and way of running things is getting old and stale with the fans. But he said he was going to change. He did. I'll give him that. He said this offseason, he was like, hey, look, guys. Okay, I might have messed up. We went 9-8 like 10 years in a row. Okay, so I might have messed up a little bit. Now he's kind of running things like a regular GM, like making good pickups. I'd say most of the Colts, all but one of the Colts pickups has been really good.
I think I know what the one is.
Yeah, that might be a segue into our next segment too. But I just want to
Yeah.
shout out.
One more thing I'm going to add too about because you brought up GMs. The Bengals don't have a GM. We do. His name's Duke Tobin, but he does not control player personnel whatsoever. So it's upper management issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that seems like a franchise that's not very aligned. And anytime you're not aligned with everyone in the organization, that's bad. Yeah, Bengals and Colts. I definitely wouldn't call those two organizations the model organizations of the NFL today. But yeah,
Try
I
not
just,
to
I
be
just thought it
lucky.
was interesting because there's so many extensions going on, and the market value of the top players at positions just keep going up and up and up, and it's absurd to me how the Bengals failed to lock up any of the three players they have due for extensions. They just haven't done it. It's unreal. Jamar Chase is going into the last year of his contract without a new one, and obviously we had that whole saga last offseason. So yeah, I mean the Colts made some moves. They got Charvarius Ward, which I would consider a splash. I mean, a 3-year, $60 million contract, especially for the Colts, but that's a splash for anybody. Uh, but yeah, that's just like Devin said. I think that's a good segue. So the main premise of today's episode is we are going to do a worst transactions draft for this offseason so far. So that's going to include free agency signings, it's going to include extensions, and it's going to include trades. I think I think I'm going to kick us off going first, and I think we're probably going to do three contracts, three transactions each, and we'll just draft in order 1, 2, 3, and see what we come up with. So look, man, first overall pick, in my opinion.
He's got a layup.
In my opinion, yeah, this is like the lob of all lobs. This is like getting an alley oop in the pick and roll from John Stockton or something, bro. This
Yeah.
is the easiest pick of my life. This is one of the worst contracts I've ever seen in my life. First overall, I got to go with Dan Moore Jr. Dan Moore Jr. signed with the Tennessee Titans on a 4-year contract worth 82 million USD. And let me tell you about Dan Moore Jr. as a Steelers fan. He's just not good at football. There's nothing to sugarcoat it. There's no condition where you could say, oh, but, or whatever. Nah, Dan Moore's just not very good. And the Titans, for whatever reason, I think can we agree this is like an annual thing for the Titans? They just go out and give somebody, just some random character, money for no reason. Like, they gave Calvin Ridley nearly $100 million last offseason, and now we're giving Dan Moore Jr. a $20 million per season, over $20 million per contract. And this is a guy who, at best, he's a swing tackle. I mean, he's a backup. He should be a team's third tackle. That's what he was going to be for the Steelers last year had Troy Fautanu not gotten hurt in training camp, our first-round pick. We would have had Troy Fautanu at right tackle, and we would have had Broderick Jones in his proper position at left tackle. But due to the injury, Dan Moore had to play left tackle. But he was going to be our third tackle, and now he hit free agency and he gets $82 million. So I think this is just an abysmal move by the Titans. It's one of the worst contracts I've ever seen, quite honestly. I just don't think Dan Moore can play. I don't think he's very good. And it's also forcing them to move their first-round draft pick last season, J.C. Latham, over to right tackle, which is, I think he played there at Alabama, but I thought the hope when they drafted him was going to be that he could be the left tackle. And that's just not going to work out. I mean, I'll say this about Dan Moore, man. He has to be just one of the most stand-up, nicest individuals this league's ever seen. Because he kept starting games for the Steelers, and now he's getting paid a lot of money from the Titans. I don't know. I don't know what Dan Moore Jr. did. I would love to know. Because he's not good at football, but he's getting paid. He's getting top-end offensive tackle money, and he's not even starting caliber. I mean, there's 64 starting tackles in the NFL, and if I'm running a team, I wouldn't want him as one of mine. Yet here we are. Not only is he starting, he's making $20 million per season. I was baffled. I was utterly stunned when I saw that contract yesterday. I don't know about y'all, but I was. So, yeah, I think with the first overall pick, I got to go Dan Moore. Horrible signing right here by the Tennessee Titans. And honestly, if you told me before free agency, Dan Moore Jr. is getting this contract, tell me which team, I might choose the Titans before anybody else. So, I guess it's pretty on brand for them, but doesn't excuse it, man. This was really bad. So, yeah, I guess we'll go on to who's going second. So, I want y'all to.
You won the coin flip.
I did, in fact, win the coin toss.
Devin won a coin flip, all right.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, but just adding on to what you just said, Landon, if you told me that contract, I would have said Titans or Browns. As far as where's the signing place, it just seems like the two most likely outcomes. But mine also, my number 2 pick also has to do with the offensive line. Mine is going to be in the AFC South. Texans send Laremy Tunsil to the Commanders. That was Houston's problem all year long, so they couldn't protect Stroud. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Laremy Tunsil's still, how old is he?
31, I believe.
31, yeah. So what?
30, I didn't understand it either, man. I'm with you on this one.
I really can't wrap, I don't get it at all. He's like the one solid piece of their line, and now it's just like, all right, see you later. We don't need you anymore, actually. Even though we do, we really do.
Draft either.
What'd you say? What was that?
I said it's not a great tackle draft either.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's a very interior heavy draft. And I mean, their offensive line was one of the worst units in the entire NFL last season, and they trade by far their best player from that unit, and they just get rid of him. And when it comes to quarterbacks, edge rushers, and tackles, those 3 positions are the 3 premium positions in the league. And when you hit on one of those, you find a really good one. That's just one of those guys that you don't move. You do everything in your power to keep. Yet here the Texans are willingly trading their franchise left tackle.
Yeah, it's just I can't wrap my head around it. I really don't get it. Hopefully they
whatever they got up their sleeve, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they have something up their sleeve, because if not, CJ Stroud's just taking a beating for no reason. And Laremy Tunsil
poor dude.
He's still really good, still very very good. So
yeah, it's not like he's washed or anything. I mean, linemen usually age pretty well. Yeah, I mean, I guess in their defense, at least they got like a decent haul of picks back, but I'd rather have a stud left tackle than all those picks. So yeah, that was definitely a weird one. So Tunsil trade off the board. So we'll go to Noah with pick 3. Noah, what you got?
So mine's interesting because I like the player. I think he's an amazing, great player. But I'm gonna have to go with the Browns extending Myles Garrett for $40 million a year. I just think the haul they could have gotten back for him, because clearly on the Browns' timetable right now, they're not in a position to win in the foreseeable future. So I think you're going to get halfway through this contract, and he's going to play great, and they're not going to win very many games, when you could have gotten back a really good draft return and cut some of your cap, which the Browns desperately need to do. It felt like a really desperate move to keep him in town, and I don't really understand the move or what their plan is going forward. Do you think that
Yeah,
the
I don't
players?
necessarily disagree because it's just like I think it's more of like the team situation. Like it's the Browns. Like what do the Browns really need Miles Garrett on that contract more than they need, like you said, the capital? And he is a great player. But yeah, I did have that one on my list. I had it a little farther down. I probably wasn't going to take it at 3, but I don't. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just not necessarily this contract that you're over the moon about. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I don't
definitely
think
get
the
it.
contract itself is what I'm like. I would be upset
Hmm.
about. It's just the
Yeah.
what you could have gotten in return.
Right. Yeah. And you turn around, and you give him essentially quarterback money.
Yeah.
Um. All right. Well, we'll go back to me. So far we got the Dan Moore Jr. contract, the Laremy Tunsil trade on the Houston point of view, because obviously that one for Washington, that's an awesome deal. But yeah, Washington, great deal for Washington. But just on the Houston front, and then Noah picked Miles Garrett for the third overall, $40 million contract for a team that just wasn't really worth it. We don't know. So that'll kick it back to me. And this was one, man. This is just kind of like Dan Moore Jr. It's like, what are we really doing here? It's a free agency contract. Javon Kinlaw signs a 3-year deal where it's $45 million with the Washington Commanders. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a Javon Kinlaw expert. I don't know everything there is to know about him, but what I do know is he's not very good at football. Obviously, relative, he's in the NFL, he's good at football, but compared to other players in the NFL, he's just not good. He's not. He hasn't lived up to the first round billing that he was supposed to when he was chosen in the first round of the draft.
He's a
And
replacement for Buckner, what they sent to the Colts. He
yeah,
was,
yeah,
yeah,
he was a DeForest Buckner replacement in San
right.
Francisco, and that just didn't work at all. And I guess now he's trying to be the Jonathan Allen replacement in Washington,
Yeah.
and I don't know, man. I mean, Javon Kinlaw just hasn't been good really at all. I mean, he's been no more than a rotational type defensive lineman, like seventh, eighth D lineman on a team or something. Yet he's getting $15 million annually from Washington in free agency, and like Washington, the team too, they've made a lot of good moves recently. And I guess there is some familiarity with Adam Peters and Kinlaw because Peters used to be in San Francisco, so I guess that probably had something to do with it. But I just can't imagine that he would have costed that much. So I just don't think this is a very good investment on their end with paying $15 million annually for a guy that is honestly below replacement level at the position. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Javon Kinlaw signing as my number 2 pick, and that'll throw it back to Devin.
All right, so my my second overall pick is going to be, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, it's going to be the Daniel Jones signing. So
Oh boy,
1 year, $14 million to Daniel Football Jones,
Danny Dimes.
Danny
He's gonna keep getting
Dimes.
money. I swear.
Yeah, I mean, he's seemingly stealing money from all these NFL teams. I saw that there's an account on Twitter. Shout out Simpsons Football on Twitter, and it's just like a clip of Homer Simpson like just completely messing something up, and Mr. Burns is like, you know what? This time he's gonna get it right. Let's pick Homer for this time. Because this time he's gonna get it right. And that was a tweet from Simpsons Football. Anyways, that perfectly encapsulates the Dan Jones situation. It's like this guy almost shows no promise. Like shows like I mean, he's like athletic. That's like his best thing at this point is he's athletic, and it's like that's like his best trait. But it's like he continually shows no promise, and teams are like, you know what? Daniel Jones might
Daniel Jones. He
he
might be
might
the
turn it
guy.
around.
I understand with like a guy like Fields, but like I'm not even seeing flashes from Jones. Like he doesn't
Yeah,
do anything.
yeah. There's nothing. But teams are like, you know what? This might be the year. Daniel Jones might win 15 games in the NFL this year. Um, so 14 million to come in and compete with Anthony Richardson. And Chris Bauer did say that he was like, I want to go get some compete. I do want to go get some competition for Anthony Richardson, but like we're Daniel Jones for that. Like if that's not even real if Anthony Richardson can't beat out Daniel Jones, then he needs to go play in the Arena League. I don't know, man. He just seems like a crazy.
Arena League is crazy.
It just feels,
Not even CFL.
dude. Yeah, I mean, I love Anthony. I'm a big Anthony Richardson guy. I do believe I think he's gonna have a turnaround year, but. We're bringing in Daniel Jones to compete with him. That's not good competition. That just says if he loses that just says more about him than winning doesn't mean anything against Daniel. Like I don't know. It's just a lot of money for a replacement that I just don't see benefiting or serving its purpose relative to why it exists.
Yeah. So I don't think it would have been as bad. I can't speak all of a sudden, but it wouldn't have been as bad as a pure backup type acquisition. But I
Right.
think the fact that the Colts are paying him $14 million, I mean that's high end backup money,
Right.
and like you said, more than likely that's what he's gonna be is the backup. So
Yeah, and you know why he picked the Colts over the Vikings is because he knew he has a chance to play
yeah,
on the Colts. That's
right.
why. So, and because they
Yeah,
told him that, obviously they were like, "Hey, listen, like you're gonna have a chance to compete for the starting job." Whereas in Minnesota, there's almost no chance they told him he'd be able to compete over McCarthy. Like they're all in McCarthy.
yeah. I think Minnesota's plan was obviously going with McCarthy, and I think
Yeah,
that shows with the way they spent in free agency.
right.
Because they've been one of the most aggressive teams in the entire NFL on that regard. Yep. So Daniel Jones goes 5th overall in the bad transactions draft. So Noah, you're up next.
All right, I'm gonna go with Chase Young for 51 million 3-year extension. I just don't think it makes sense for the Saints as a team who are actively in cap hell right now. They're making like numerous cuts. I just really this is the guy you're extending. This is what you want going forward, I guess, at that position. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense as a team, and I thought it would be a pretty easy. I thought he was actually going to get cut. So pretty much from a money standpoint, I don't think it makes sense for the Saints to be extending a guy like Chase Young who's just kind of bounced around the league. It seems like after being
Yeah, yeah. I think you're spot on with it. Where this is one where if it was just the contract, I honestly don't believe it was that bad. But considering it was the Saints, a team. Look, if you told me that I had to take over an NFL team, and you told me I had to choose two teams that I would absolutely not want to take over, it'd be the Saints and the Browns. So, but yeah, like it just makes no sense really for the Saints of all teams to give out this contract. And I will say to Chase Young's credit, he's had a really nice bounce back after starting out and being proclaimed a bust with Washington. He had 66 pressures last season, which was 7th among all edge rushers. He was 5th in hurries with 47. He was 13th in QB hits with 12. He had 7 sacks, which was 33rd. Obviously, not great, but I think the pressure numbers were really encouraging. And I think he deserved that payday. But yeah, like from the Saints, I thought was really strange. They just seem like a team though. Like I don't honestly, I don't know what you do right now for the Saints. That's a tough spot.
they seem like they kind of are refusing to rebuild.
Yeah,
The Titans
they're
approach
running the back with Derek
it.
Carr. There's just they were like their coaching cycle, their search was just a disaster. I mean, they had to wait out on Kellen Moore, which Kellen Moore had a good year as the Eagles OC, but I mean, they probably went option 1A on their board for that. All right, well, I'm up. So this is gonna be our last round. We'll just do 3 each. So my third pick, I was really excited that this guy's available. Came back around to me. I'm going with Brandon Stevens, corner formerly of the Ravens, signed a 3-year, $36 million a contract with the New York Jets. So look, Brandon Stevens, when you watch the Ravens defense in the second half of the year last year, they took a major leap ahead. They moved Kyle Hamilton back to the free safety spot, playing on the back end instead of playing down in the box, and that changed everything for them. Yet, watching the Ravens, if you were playing offense against the Ravens and you were trying to figure out a solution, if you were trying to figure out how to gain yards, how to score a touchdown, whatever the case was, you just looked out there and you found where number 21 was. And wherever 21 was, you just threw the ball over there. And usually it worked. 21, by the way, was Brandon Stevens, if you didn't catch that. But yeah, Brandon Stevens leaves the Ravens for the Jets. The Jets give him 3 years, $36 million, $12 million a year of real money to play football for them. And I wasn't a fan of it. I don't think it's just there's a theme here with my picks here with Moore Jr., Kinlaw, and now Brandon Stevens. These three players are just not very good NFL football players, and they're getting paid 10 plus million here, 15 plus for Kinlaw, 20 plus for Moore. They're getting paid real contracts, and I just don't think these guys are any good. Like, they're just below replacement level. They're backup type caliber players, and I question all of these decisions by these teams. And Brandon Stevens was honestly probably one of the worst DBs in the NFL last year, and he got a 3-year deal from the Jets. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Round it off for my picks. Moore Jr., Kinlaw, Stevens. Feel pretty good about that.
All right, is that bring it to me? My
You're back
pick?
up. Final pick.
All right. I'm gonna go in the same vein. Well, actually, no, just kidding. I lied to you. It's not in the same vein. I'm gonna pick is Deo Odangbo, who signed with the Chicago Bears, former Colt, classic Chris Ballard prospect, a guy that just didn't really do anything in college, wasn't very good, but he's an athletic freak. I mean, this guy is one of the better athletes prospects I've seen come into the league. He played on the Colts defensive line. He was okay. I watched every snap of Colts football for the past however many years. Like, he's all right. That's all. I mean, that's really all I have to say about him. I believe it was a 2-year deal
It's
for
3-year. I think it
3
was
year,
it's 3
for
for
48.
48. Yeah,
Yeah,
348.
348, which is like I think a bit of an overpay when you're looking at like he's getting paid more than guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Cam Jordan after this deal. And I think that even in their old ages, both those guys are far superior pass rushers. It just seems like such a weird. I think that he was actually like a pretty hot prospect in free agency this year for whatever reason. Unless people must know something I don't, because he was pretty up on a lot of teams' boards seemingly from the rumors we have. And I just don't really get it. Like he's just fine. He's
Yeah,
just fine.
I think he definitely is just fine. I think a lot of these contracts too were inflated. I think this is a good example of a contract being inflated because of the rise in the cap space, and then it just seemed like there was more teams than ever this year that had money to spend, and
Yeah.
so I think that's why some of these contracts were pretty crazy. I think a lot of the DB contracts really showed that just how much money was being thrown around. And I think this is another one. I kind of agree with you. Like I think he's a Odengba's a starting caliber defensive lineman,
Yeah.
but like he's like not going to make a Pro Bowl or anything. I mean, I know the Pro Bowl doesn't really mean anything, but just like that level of
Yeah, but
player.
he's not even that. Like he's not on that
Yeah,
level of.
right. Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at. Is he's just
Right.
not he's not really that. I did see the pressure numbers were good. Like he was in the top quarter of defensive linemen in pressures. So like the the that on that regard, he was better than pure just like sack production. I think he had like 8 sacks in 2023. Um, he has good. He's like 6'6". I think 286 is what he's listed at, something like that. So
What's
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Athletic freak.
athletic
Like
freak. Yeah, but
freak of nature.
yeah. What I was getting at with that is like Dennis Allen. This is actually a pretty funny coincidence because you brought up Cam Jordan. Dennis Allen coached Cam Jordan obviously for a long time in New Orleans, and as like a build, he's similar to Odengbo in the fact that they both play that 4-3 defensive end spot. They're rushing off the edge, but yet they're both bigger. So I don't know. There could be a little bit of value Chicago season there with him being 286 pounds, so he can play on the edge and maybe he can kick inside to like a 5 tech type spot, or maybe like a 4-eye or something if you need him to at that size. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate that pick. Personally, it wasn't on my radar, but I yeah, I mean, I think that could definitely be a product of an inflated salary cap and inflated cap space for a bunch of teams. So that'll kick it back to Noah for the final pick of the bad transactions draft for the 2025 offseason. What you got?
So there was a couple I was thinking of. I was gonna do the deal Juwan Johnson just signed, but I didn't want to do the Saints twice. So I'm actually gonna go with
Don't want to kick a dead man while he's down.
yeah. I mean, they know they suck. They're fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Darius Slayton re-signing with the Giants, three
Ooh, I
years.
like that one.
That was my backup.
Look, listen, too. I'm gonna let you go, but I'm a Slayton fan. I'm gonna just preface that. What you got though?
I mean, I think he's fine. I guess it's just he's been. It feels like he's just been there for a minute,
It
and
feels
his
like they've tried to
production.
trade him 4 times.
Yeah, and his production's just stayed this around the same. I get bad quarterback play, but I'm just kind of surprised, and the Giants would want to keep him around in general.
Yeah, I think that was another one too, where the contract he's making 12 million annually. It's 36 million over 3 years. I don't think the contract's that horrible, but it's just the fact that the Giants were the ones who did it, and they have Malik Neighbors, they have Wandell Robinson, and so he was probably going to slot in as their third, or he is going to slot in as their third receiver more than likely. I do think he had his best season last season. Just watching, I think he was separating at a level that he had never had before. He's always had problems with his hands, and I think that's been the Giants fans' biggest complaints with him. Um, I think he was a team that some teams are going to look at to possibly even come in and be their number two. But no, I mean he lands back with the Giants on a 3-year deal. I mean it is crazy to me how he's still on the Giants because it
I
really
mean,
does feel
more
like he's
like
in
for
trade
his
talks
sake,
every
if he
year.
would want himself like a
Yeah, that's
personal
another thing
change
too.
of scenery.
Yeah, people forget about these contracts. It takes two to tango. So Slayton wanted to be back there, and then that was another weird part about the Chase Young deal was that he chose to go back to New Orleans. Which, I don't know Chase Young. I don't know. He must love New Orleans. That's fine, but yeah, that one was definitely questionable.
The Darius Slayton one is funny. If you scroll through because I was thinking about picking Darius Slayton here. I ended up going with Odengbo, but if you scroll through the Giants, if you like just go to their Instagram page and go to the post of we're extending Darius Slayton, like the comments split down the middle. It's like, what are we doing? This is terrible. We offered Saquon less money than this, and then like
Yeah,
half Giants legend, let's go guys, we got him back in. So it's just like the fan base is seemingly very. I mean, I'm not
yeah.
a fan,
Divided
but
fan base is always funny.
yeah, seemingly split down the middle on the Darius Slayton
Yeah.
extension.
All right, so that's gonna do it for the draft. So, quick recap: my team, I got Dan Moore Jr. on a 4-year, $82 million contract with the Titans, Javon Kinlaw on a 3-year, $45 million contract with the Washington Commanders, And then I got Brandon Stevens on a 3-year, $36 million contract with the New York Jets. Then Devin, he has the Laramie Tunsil trade from Houston. The Daniel Jones contract with the Indianapolis Colts, $14 million over a year. And then Adeo Dangbo contract with the Chicago Bears, 3 years, $48 million. And then Noah took the Myles Garrett extension with Cleveland. The Chase Young contract at New Orleans, and then the Darius Slayton contract with the New York Giants. I do have a few just honorable mentions I wanted to bring up. Aaron Banks signed a 4-year contract for $77 million with the Green Bay Packers, and he's really no more than probably like an average starter on the offensive line. And the Packers are a team who just drafted Jordan Morgan recently to be their other guard, so we thought, opposite of Elkton Jenkins, and they're throwing a bunch of money at Aaron Banks, who I don't think the 49ers are really scrambling to replace, I guess, so to say. So that one was a little weird. And then Harold Landry signed with the Patriots, 3 years, $43.5 million. And he's been a guy like recently where I think the sack numbers are still decent, but actually watching him, he's just like the poster child of like a quarterback will scramble for keep the play going for 8 or 9 seconds, break 3 tackles, and then Harold Landry comes in and finishes the job. It's not like he's really winning his one-on-one reps consistently, like the numbers may show. And he's getting older, obviously, every year. So that one, I mean, it's not the most expensive one, but not necessarily one that I loved. And then this one, it was Trevon Moehrig, a 3-year deal, $51 million with the Panthers. And it's not that I didn't think he was a good player. It's just the fact Javon Holland, who's 1,000% the best safety available, signed with the Giants on a 3-year deal for $45 million. So Javon Holland getting paid $6 million less than Moehrig did here from the Panthers. So yeah, I don't really know what went on there, what happened, but I mean the Panthers, they have a lot of money to spend, and I guess they do have a direction now. I mean, they probably believe in Bryce Young way more now than they did last season, just because he obviously played very well at the end of the year. So it's not, I guess, out of the question for them to go and spend all this money in free agency. I think that's probably what they should have done. But yeah, just considering the market value of other players at the same position, I had to throw that one in. And then those are the 3 free agent contracts that weren't in this that I did want to bring up. Just as
I have one transaction I want to bring up.
All right.
That just kind of confused me was the 49ers lease and use check.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah,
I was just like, why? Like, how many teams use a fullback anymore? And use check's like the most notable one in the league.
Well, it just makes you think: is San Francisco going to quit using the fullback?
Right.
Is Shanahan getting rid of the fullback in his offense? Because if they're still going to use one, then why not keep Juszczyk? Because he's the best one in the NFL.
Right. Unless I mean, San Francisco does know something we don't know. Unless they know about a nice, hot, young fullback coming up in the draft.
In the draft, yeah, maybe.
Like, we gotta have this guy.
Yeah, maybe there's a dog or something.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, I can't either.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see where Juszczyk goes. Because like you said, there's only... What?
I can't think of the best fullback prospects this year.
Yeah, I
can't pull that out of my head.
Definitely, yeah. I'm not... If you want to know about the best fullbacks in the 25 draft, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
I am curious about where Juszczyk will go, though, because there's not a lot of teams that use a fullback. Makes me think Denver could be an option, because it seems like they just take all of the old 49ers players, and Sean Payton still uses a fullback.
Yeah.
Because I know they signed Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga from the 49ers, so who knows?
Is Juszczyk a Charger?
But he could be a Charger.
I bet he's a Charger.
You think so, with Harbaugh?
Yeah. Harbaugh loves a fullback.
He does love him a fullback. Greg Roman loves him a fullback, too.
Greg Roman, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Juszczyk's a Charger. Or
Okay.
retire.
Or retire, yeah. He could just retire. He's had a good career. He's made 9 Pro Bowls or 9 All-Pros, something like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You can catch more content at all social platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, YouTube, at Ball Talk Media with an _. You can follow me on Twitter at LandonSpec2. Y'all want to shameless plug your socials?
Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, sure, why not? All right, follow my Twitter, Ball State News 1. It's hard to miss.
Ball State.
One day,
News.
maybe we'll find the story behind that.
Yeah.
So
day.
Ball State News 1.
And then you can follow me at Latul Devin on X. If you're into Memphis Tigers basketball.
Yeah, if you're into college basketball in general, we all do also cover some college basketball. March Madness is coming up, so we'll probably have some content going around on that. So that's going to do it. I hope everybody has a good one.